warm welcome to our series of online support presentations from the Suffolk Psychology and Therapeutic Services. The presenters you'll hear are all members of our inclusion facilitation team. They are experts in working therapeutically with children and young people of all ages who find the social and emotional demands of education hard work. You can find out about the huge scope of the range of support that our inclusion facilitators offer by clicking on the web link below. Each of our series follows the same simple premise: to watch at your own speed and learn at your own pace.
This presentation, created by the Inclusion Facilitator team, will focus on the ABCD approach. Please take a moment to reflect on your present level of knowledge about the ABCD approach and where you might place yourself along this scale.
We're going to give an outline of what the ABCD approach is, when it could be used and what it involves. It is important to note that this exercise allows us to look beyond the immediate behaviours so that we can understand better what our children are trying to communicate through their actions. The ABCD method is an approach to understanding young people's behaviour and communication. The tool looks at behavioural patterns, triggers, and identifying support with the aim of reducing less helpful behaviours over time. The tool is not for recording all of the negative things a child does, and it is not designed to be solely used around incidents of bad behaviour. In this training video, you will learn the purpose of the ABCD method, why it works so well, how to identify behavioural triggers, and how to preempt and modify difficult times.
The idea of using the form in this way is to capture a range of concerning behaviours over time, for example, over a period of 1 or 2 weeks. Ideally, the form is completed by an adult or adults who know the child or young person well. The important part of this process is that you are trying to separate and understand what the behaviours are communicating. The form is designed for the boxes to be completed in numerical order, which we will go through now. 1. What exactly did you see? This needs to be described in an objective way. The what, not the why. Include as many specific details as you can. So, what exactly was seen? What were the exact sounds and words, the date and time, place, environment, and so on. 2. This is to know and record anything that occurred before the behaviour, very recently but also across the whole of the day so far. Make sure to look at the big picture. The table offers some possible questions to get you thinking. 3. Here we think about any action or response that follows the behaviour. The child's consequence doesn't necessarily mean the punishment or form of discipline given. Instead, it is the outcome that is reinforcing for the child. So ask questions such as, what did they get out of this action? Did it draw people nearer, or was it isolating? Did they get a physical or sensory release from running, screaming, biting, or pushing? Did it serve as a distraction or avoidance of something perceived as too difficult or too scary? Did it help the young person regain a sense of control? 4. So given that you want to try and preempt the behaviour by looking in detail at what happened before, the antecedent, you need to suggest alternatives that give the child the same consequence they are seeking, but in a positive way. Therefore, the last column looks at what you, other adults, the young person, could do differently next time. Look for patterns, day, time, particular people, or ways of interacting. Fatigue, overload, sensory need, environment.
Before we carry on, make sure you have a blank ABCD template to hand. You can draw your own simply with 4 columns and mark them each A, B, C and D. We're sharing with you an example of challenging behaviour, a child destroying a classroom, to give you practice in the ABCD approach. Although this clip is 6.5 minutes long, you just need to focus on the first 3 minutes, please. The link we have provided takes you to a YouTube video clip from the film Clockwork Mice. We recommend that you pause this presentation and open the link in a separate tab to view the video before coming back to complete this presentation.
As you watch the clip, think about what you might have noticed could be the antecedent and what was the consequence of the behaviour displayed for the young person. Think about the steps we've gone through. A polite warning, there is some swearing in this video. Start and stop the video when you're ready.
Well done. Now you've completed your first ABCD chart. It's time to look it over and see what else you might add. Don't worry if you haven't written down all the things we've put above. As with so much, there's no substitute for practice, and you may well have thought of other things that we haven't. Remember, the behaviour column is the first you fill out. It's everything you saw or heard. No inference, just a plain description in short bulleted form. We noted that the teacher stood and moved forward in a dominant posture. He told the older boy to leave and Neil to put his drawing away. He moved between Neil and the door, blocking Neil's escape route. Neil stood, he pushed some desks over and threw a chair through a window and then back from the other side. What else did you see and hear? Please add to the list. Having written down the behaviours, you now need to look back at what you know of any and all triggers to the event. Here are some of our examples to help you. At the beginning, we saw Neil playing basketball, and he hasn't changed clothing, so there may be a sensory component to his dysregulation. We know from the teacher's conversation that Neil has attended many schools and has been involved with the police. His family background is mentioned in a negative way, and he is already needing individual support for behaviour or risk management. His teacher is dressed in a way that may well remind him of austere authority figures whom he distrusts, and Neil has a particular difficulty, or shame perhaps, around writing tasks. What else did you infer? Please, again, add to the list. Now we move to column C to write down the consequences. Remember that these are all the things that occurred as a result of the behaviours, emotionally, physically, socially, cognitively, and so on. We noticed that, actually, Neil's physical behaviours were not too dissimilar from what he would have gained in basketball. He also avoided any teacher-led activity, missing out on an opportunity to build reciprocity and trust, and reinforcing the idea that he needs to create a big diversion in order to take control. There certainly appears to be much groundwork needed before Neil would be able to complete a writing task, and we'll come to that in the next and final column. In the meantime, which other consequences did you notice? And now to the last column, what anyone could do differently next time. Taking each of your triggers or antecedents in turn, which could be shaped, changed, or used to inform the way in which an activity is presented. The idea of column D is to look carefully at A and C, and then identify how a young person is meeting their particular needs, and to be creative about meeting the same needs in a different, positive way. Perhaps there is something that is accidentally reinforcing a behavioural cycle that could be changed. Here are some of our examples. Firstly, if this is about needing sensory breaks or additional movement incorporated into Neil's day, then perhaps this should be explored. Secondly, Neil's expectations of learning are clearly very negative, and he needs adults to develop connection before correction, perhaps by using his interests in art or basketball. Thirdly, his motivations are unclear. Neil needs support to understand himself and his emotions, feelings, and motivations, and to be given a safe way to express these. And lastly, Neil showed a clear preference to be outside, so why not work with him for short periods of time in a safe outdoor space? We have found that the most effective way to complete column D is to be as specific as possible and have real sign-up, to think creatively and try out changes with a clear purpose linked to exactly who will be involved, what precisely the difference will be, and where and when it will take place.
Look carefully through your form. Ideally, you would complete at least 4 or 5 for each different behaviour or event across a week or more. So you have a few forms where you have carefully analysed and broken down separate behavioural events. This will enable you to explore if there are certain triggers that keep reoccurring, look at the different interactions, what is or isn't in the environment, adult and child expectations. Look for patterns in the behaviours, times of day, impulse-led, learned or modelled behaviours, ways to control a situation, or sensory responses. Then view the consequences. Which outcomes are reinforcing or meeting this child's needs, even in an unhelpful way, such as smashing windows? Ask what they are getting from such actions. Examples might be avoidance, a physical or cathartic release, or the only way that they feel that they can regain control. Lastly, this information should lead you to D. What can you or others do differently? What small changes can be put into place to still meet a child's unvoiced needs, but in a much more positive way? This is a process of trial and error, looking for effects and what works well. Take time to share and discuss the forms with others. The most effective forms are collaboratively recorded and each small change collaboratively shaped and shared.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. Please, would you take a moment to remember the number that you chose at the start? Reflecting now on what you have learned, where would you now place yourself along this scale? We hope that it's a slightly higher number and that our introduction to this topic has been both helpful and interesting to you.
If you'd like to get in touch for further information or have any further questions, please email us. The initial link will take you to our website where you can access some free resources, and we have provided some further resources that complement the ABCD model. Thank you.